Hi, welcome to the last episode of Be Yourself, Be Free, where I am going to be talking to you about what I learned in my first season in podcasting. Now, this is the last episode of season one. It is not the last episode like forever. I'll start off by telling you why I started my podcast in the first place. One of my mentors, Giuseppe, told me that in order for me to know my craft way better, that I would have to launch my own podcast. And being a podcast manager and producer, I thought, boy, I know you're saying this because you don't know what it takes to launch a podcast and to keep it alive and to avoid pod fading. So for those of you that don't know that what pod fading means, pod fade is when you start producing your podcast. And I feared that I wasn't going to be able to do it. So I took his advice and here I am. I took 4 weeks to plan, record, edit, launch my podcast. And all of my episodes required scheduling of a guest because if you've heard my podcast before, all of my episodes include a guest. So imagine having to schedule 11 episodes with 11 different people. However, it was not such a difficult thing to do because, hello, that's what I do as my profession. And it turns out that I had a fantastic time recording my podcast, and I cannot wait to bring you season two in October. Another thing that I was thinking about, I couldn't decide if I wanted to do my all of my episodes in English or all of them in Spanish because I serve bilingual clients who speak both languages, English and Spanish, and I dominate both languages very well. So, why choose when I could just do both? One of the things that I learned is that both languages were taken very well by the community that I have. There's no major difference between the downloads of an episode in English and one in Spanish. So if you are thinking about launching a podcast in either language, focus on what your community likes. So in my community, they are all bilingual, the majority of them. And the ones that are not had available episodes they could listen to in their preferred language. And I tried to keep it even so that it wouldn't be dominated by either of the languages. I found that preparing my guests was imperative for a successful production. The key to success from my production was to reduce the stress of my guests by sending them a Zencaster guest information requirements sheet so that they could check if they had enough space on their laptop or desktop. And I also sent them a screenshot of the mic settings so that they wouldn't be confused when it came to our session. This helped in reducing a lot of the stress and for us to have a wonderful conversation because if I hadn't prepared them, they would have came in nervous. They would probably get pissed off because they couldn't figure the mic out. And who wants to have a conversation when they're stressed out? Not me. After visiting my Podbean dashboard, I discovered that the majority of my listeners are in Spain, Venezuela, Iran, that's very surprising, and the USA. The only reason why it's surprising for me that I have listeners in Iran is that I'm not sure if there's anyone there who speaks Spanish, or I'm not really sure how it landed there, but I'm excited either way. And in the USA, the majority of my listeners, I will list them in the order of the amount of listeners that there are. The first is Idaho, then California, New York, Texas, and Georgia. So thank you for listening. I discovered that people listen to my podcast the most on an app called Bullhorn, and then it's Apple Podcast, and the third one, Audible. If it's your first time listening to the podcast and you're not sure where you should start, then I'm going to recommend the most popular episode with one of my dear friends and clients, Naya Pelayo, who is a productivity coach. She's also going to start her video podcast using Zencaster, and she's going to launch next month. We've already started the production, and I can't wait to tell you all about it and to share it with you. Our episode is called Should You Humble Yourself to Transform Your Life? We talk about productivity and finance. The second most popular episode was the one with Andrea Gomez, the owner of Amazona Spas. And the title of that episode is Skin Doesn't Have Gender. And I really enjoyed recording that episode. It was so much fun. And I know you're going to feel the positive energy. And she is so funny. She gives all these tips on how to take care of your skin, regardless of whether you're a man or a woman, because skin is skin. Skin doesn't have gender. Take care of it. And that's what I learned with season one. So, what can you expect in season two? I'm only going to have 4 to 5 interviews. I haven't decided if I'm going to do 5, but I remember polling you guys on Instagram, and you said that you wanted more episodes of just me, more solo episodes. So I'm going to prepare that for you guys. I've already planned my content, and I go into production on October 14th. So you can expect season 2 to launch the week of Halloween. Really love Halloween. So if you know anybody that has a paranormal story to share, then please send them my way and ask them to send me a DM so that I can send them my guest release form and so that we could start chatting and recording our scary episode. Even though Halloween is one of my favorite holidays, I'm a scaredy cat. I cannot even watch a scary movie. The last movie, and actually the last scary movie I watched was It. And before that, the last movie I had watched at the movies was Hills Have Eyes. So you can imagine that was a really long time ago. I just don't like scary movies, but I like talking about scary stuff. So it's fine. Whatever's dead can't hurt you, right? So if you've been considering to launch a podcast and you've been thinking about it for way too long, you can visit my website, yalicristina.com, and book a call with me so that we can talk about your project. Like, there shouldn't be anything stopping you from launching your podcast. It's a really fun way to connect with new listeners and to spread your message or communicate with people from all over the world. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being a part of this community. I love you guys.